Hello ladies and gentlemen of YouTube. Time for another Metal Earth build. This time I'm trying to grab something a little on the newer side. I have the A-10 Warthog. And this is an aircraft that came out somewhat recently. I know I haven't finished all the previous aircraft, but I thought I would grab this one being newer and put it together for those who are also thinking about getting it. Or maybe have it on your shelf and you're a little worried about what's in store. But let's open this up, see what's inside. Talk about how difficult it may or may not be, then put it together and find out. A-10 Warthog, or A-10 Thunderbolt, single-seat jet fighter powered by twin turbofan engines. Oh, I think I see the instructions peeking up here, so let me tap everything down because I've not done that before and ended up tearing the top of the instructions up. Inside, we have our expected 2 metal sheets and 2 pieces of paper for the instructions. Let's open what looks like part 1, and oh, there's something unexpected. Model parts. There's little tubes in here. I don't know what that's for. Well, keep looking, maybe I'll find out. We have the first page, the usual fascinations, Metal Earth 3D metal model kits, little line drawing for one of the sheets and the model and the A-10 Warthog, an item number, and we have the QR code and the information about the 360 view. You can go to this website, or I believe scan this QR code with your phone or tablet, and it will take you to this 360. I've not actually done that. I'm assuming that's how that works. So if you know, leave a comment so that I can know whether or not I'm telling the truth. And then we have a box over here talking about insertion tabs, insertion holes, and fold lines. Basically, the insertion tabs go in the holes. Fold lines are lines that are supposed to make it easier to fold. Usually do. There are always exceptions. Needle nose pliers are helpful for assembly. We have over here is the older part of the legend. I used to, this was all you got, and I always refer to it as the legend. When you see a blue circle next to a connection, like so, I don't know if you can see that. The blue circle means to insert the tabs and bend them over 90 degrees. The green triangle is indicating you should insert the tab and twist them 90 degrees. And these are usually for more hidden tabs or areas where they need to be more secure, because that is a more secure connection. These can actually pull apart under pressure. And then down here we have the usual metal sheets, their layout and the part numbers so you can find them. Here's this sheet, doesn't want to cooperate, sticking to my finger. That sheet. So you have the parts, starting with 1 here, it's telling you that's this part here. 2 is here, that's this over here, and the directions go mostly in order with some jumping around. As you see, some parts have, or they're colored in, and these are all red, so these are all one part. When you see parts that are colored the same shade, they're the same part. There's one part number. This is part 15. So part 15 is going to show up more than once in the directions, and it may be they all show up at once, but it may be as you climb in numbers, it'll come back to 15 because it's used in several places. But I like that they do that. It makes it easier to find those duplicate parts that you inevitably run into in most builds. Sliding over here to page 2, we have the start of the assembly flowchart with part 1, part 2, and how to fold and shape them. I forgot to mention the E. Let's go back. The legend, as they have it listed, E pointing at something is pointing at the engraved side. NE is pointing at the non-engraved side, and the little finger is pointing at an attention point. The attention point can be a number of things. It could be trying to tell you to make sure you line up these 2 parts, or these 2 sections, or these 2 tabs, or make sure you go into the top tab and not the bottom one. Sometimes there's wording with it to help explain what you're paying attention to. Sometimes you just have to, well, pay attention. Now the non-engraved and engraved side can sometimes be a little confusing because when it's saying non-engraved side, it may have engraving, but it's engraving to help it fold and not necessarily engraving of detail. So that can be a little misleading sometimes. Back over here, the assembly flowchart, we've got 1 and 2. These come together into this. We've got 3, shaping it, following the arrows, and attaching it to this down here. And you just essentially follow the arrows and part numbers. Once you get to the bottom, flip over. We have page 3. We continue. Here's a tip. A little something to help you out, pointing at non-engraved. Just follow the arrows and the sub-assemblies and bring things together. Then on to page 4. Follow the arrows, sub-assemblies, etc., etc. When we get to the bottom of that, well, we finish with the first sheet. I like to set this aside where I can see the part numbers and open up the second sheet. Usually to the inside, we have part 5 here, and just keep following the arrows that sometimes change directions. Part 6, shaping, folding, bending, and much of the same. Flip it over for page 7, follow it to the end, page 8, and when you get to the bottom of that, you have completed your model. Let's take a moment to talk about the tools that I use. This is my standard set that I use in most every build. I have long needle nose pliers and flat nose pliers, useful for a variety of different things. I have flush clippers that I use to cut the parts off the trees. It makes it quick and easy. And then I have some precision tweezers, one with a very pointed end, one that's had the pointed end ground down slightly, and one with a flat, sort of curved end. Great for getting into curved areas. And then I have a standard set of tweezers with an angled tip. These come in one of the Iconics models, and I love them and use them a lot. When it comes to shaping rounded parts, there are many options. I used dowel rods for a long time. I sharpened the ends of 2 of them with a pencil sharpener. These 2 are great for making cone shapes. Another option is a cheap drill bit set. This set has quite a few different sizes to choose from. Another option is a set of step mandrels. Ring pliers or round nose pliers can be found with jewelry making tools and work wonderfully for curving delicate and or hard to get to areas. I rarely use them anymore, but I have these locking clamps, and they come in handy occasionally because they can lock, and you can put a part in here and carefully guide it into place. I use these for that when my hands just won't fit in the area and the precision tweezers won't hold them tight enough. Another advantage is they're really long and thin, so you can reach deep down into areas to twist tabs. The disadvantage, and you have to be careful, is they have teeth, so they can scratch things up. I have a sculpting set here that I occasionally use, and they have all kinds of different shaped ends on them. Some flat, some angled, some spoon. There's a couple of hooks. They're useful for reaching in and bending and pushing and pulling tabs and shaping parts from the inside. For shaping ball shapes or dome shapes, I've got this fondant set, I believe it's called. I found it by accident, but essentially it's got different sized spears on the end of a stick, so it's easy to hold on to it while you put a part on it and shape it around, unlike a bead or marble that could accidentally pop out from under you and cause problems. We've taken a peek at the directions and briefly gone over them. We've got our metal sheets here. We've got some tools to get me started. Let's put it together. Bend the end tab to point in the same direction as the other 2. They will line up with their slides better.
The directions offer a very good tip here when it says to bend the first and third tabs one way and the middle the other. That helps to keep the fin from flapping back and forth. Plus, you will need to fold them over and not twist because the other side of the fin folds over the tabs. To keep part 7 from closing completely, I held it with the pointed tweezers, with one point between the two sides. The tabs are spaced slightly, so it needs to be kept open just a bit. I also pinched the tabs together a little so that they were pointing in the same direction. I found out what the sticks are for. They are for shaping the tube-shaped parts like the gun and the missiles. It's great that they included them, but they are a bit too flexible for me. I will stick with the drill bits. The instructions for part 9 and 10 can be misinterpreted at first. It has an X2 at the end of the assembly, which means to do that twice, but it also has an X2 by part 10. At first I was thinking that 2 part 10s go on each part 9, but no. Just one 9 and one 10 each assembly and do that twice. Be sure to bend over all the tabs inside the wings so that the halves will fit together. I had a real tough time shaping the cones at the front of the bombs or missiles. I really couldn't get any of my tools in there to help shape them. I kept using the tips of the drill bits sticking out just a little to round it, and then did my best to shape the rest of it with tweezers. The flaps at either side of the missiles get in the way of bending the tubes all the way, but they make a decent point to pinch the two ends together, thus finishing the shape if you have something inside to shape it, like a drill bit, or maybe one of the tubes that comes with this model. In this video, I cut out some parts where I tried numerous times to get a part to fit or had to make multiple adjustments to something to allow it to fit. I try to show a little bit of everything, but sometimes you may see in a video that I make 1 or 2 adjustments, when in reality I made many more. I do that to move the build along. These builds take time. Be patient, take your time, and be prepared to make numerous test fits and adjustments during this or any build. I bent the tabs over too tightly here and ended up bending more than just the tab. It took me a while to straighten that up. This is me realizing I missed a tab. I was confused when it came time to attach the wings. It seems that you need to put a bit of a curve on the inside of the wing to get the tabs to line up. There was nothing in the directions to indicate to open up and curve the inside of the wings, but it wasn't hard to figure out. I did not pay attention to the directions here when it gives a tip to start at the front tabs, and I learned why. I started at the back, thinking with the space back there being tight, it would help to be able to maneuver things around some to line up the tabs, and starting at the front would limit how much I can maneuver. But starting at the rear made the front two tabs impossible to put into their slots. I give you the A10 Warthog. Not too terribly warped. I might need to shape a little bit more. This build got off to a quick start, big pieces. I was kind of excited about that. I knew from experience when they start off that quick with the big pieces, they're going to slow down, they're going to get tougher. So I knew that was coming, but I was really hoping to get through the first half so I could put that first sheet to the side and see the front and see the parts list, but it didn't happen that way, and it slowed way down and got tough, especially with the missiles. I had such a difficult time shaping those front cones. It was difficult to get tools in there where I needed to because it was all one piece and they're so small. I did the best I could. I'm not really proud or happy with the way they turned out, but I did the best I could and they're not terrible. This build took just short of 3 hours to build. I definitely enjoyed it. It was challenging at times, but not too much so. Building these models, I've mentioned it before, brings like an extra dimension to the actual model or whatever it's modeled of. Because I know nothing about the A10, I've learned a little bit. I'd never paid much attention to it before, so being able to build these and see them and see the detail is nice. And it sparked a little bit of a conversation on my Instagram page. Paranoid61 was a mechanic for RAF Bentwaters, I believe, Royal Air Force. And Stampy57 mentioned how he recognized the SP designation. He was a crew chief at Spangdahlem in the 80s, so it brought back a lot of memories for him. So that was interesting to have that little bit of a conversation, to talk to people who've actually worked or been or near the planes in the Air Force. Always thank you for your service. Now the sticks were a neat touch for them to add this in the packaging, help you to shape those parts. Unfortunately they're a bit flexible, especially this tiny one. It looks like there's 3 different sizes. It's hard to say because the ends are not flat, they're a little squished, so that limits how useful they are, and the fact they're so flexible in these tiny parts and the pressure you need to get stuff bent around them. I just went with the drill bits instead, but it was a nice inclusion to the model, especially for some people who don't have the kind of tools that I have. You can make it work, and it's better than nothing. I think I've talked on long enough. I'll leave it at that. As always, if you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them down below. Thank you for watching, and keep on keeping on.